Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on CCH iFirm AML. My name is Ben Cunliffe, and I'm a lead product manager at Wolters Kluwer. And I'm going to be taking you through one of our latest products that we've launched to market, CCH iFirm AML. So, yeah, thank you very much all for joining me. My name is Ben Cunliffe, as I said. A little bit about me. I've been in accountancy and financial fintech with accountants and bookkeepers for around 10 years. I look after a variety of products at Wolters Kluwer, some that you're all familiar with, some brand new ones, some super secret ones that we're building out that haven't even seen the light of day yet. So yeah, right across the board. I'm not a tax or accounts head, nor do I claim to be. I'm very much in the kind of practice tools domain and efficiencies around those areas. In terms of what I'd like to talk you through today from an agenda point of view, so we're going to have a quick look at the AML landscape, some of the key challenges that firms are facing. One of the things that I'm very, very keen on talking about, I talk about it any available opportunity, is how firms like yourselves can generate a revenue stream from AML. We'll have a look at the audit trail, the importance of the audit trail within a good, strong, solid AML framework within your firm. We'll deep dive a little bit into the compliance side of things. So kind of hit you over the head with some of the quotes from the MLR 17. And then we'll actually get into demo as well. So we'll have a look at CCH iFirm AML. We'll have a look at the different kinds of electronic checks that we can do. And yeah, hopefully be able to run through pretty much all of the functionality that we built and have a little chat about some of the things that we are building. So you won't see them today, but you might see them in future iterations. The beauty of having our AML product in the cloud is that we can release every 2 weeks. I know a lot of our CCH users who use our on-premise products will be more used to a kind of quarterly release cycle. But obviously, as we start to transition more and more products into the cloud, that 2-weekly release means that we can deliver features to you quicker. We'll have a chat about pricing and packaging. It's the one that we always get. You know, how much does it cost? What do the packages look like? So I'll have a quick chat about that and how you can get a quote, because spoiler alert, it's going to be different for every single person on the call, dependent on what checks they want and how many of what checks that they're after as well. And then, as Steph alluded to as well, we've had some questions sent in early. It's great, very well organised. But of course, if there are any kind of ad hoc questions, Zoom does have a Q&A feature. So I'll jump into those and see if I can answer some of those questions as well. Any questions I can't answer, please feel free to reach out to us and we can get you an answer on those as well. Smashing. So from a regulation point of view, I think there are different levels of knowledge on AML in the market. So hopefully everything I'm about to say is old news to you, but I speak to firms about AML nearly every day for the past year and a half, and yeah, there are different understandings of the law, and no two firms are, I guess, completing their AML duties in the same way. So the regulations of AML are tough to navigate. They can be confusing. They're not always the most clear in terms of what must be done and when it must be done. And those AML processes do differ from firm to firm. The MLR 17 laws, which basically set out the structure, obviously came out in the 2017, but they've been changed and they've been updated, and amendments have been added since. But they have endorsed the use of electronic AML checks, basically to try and help firms when it comes to their client due diligence for that risk-based AML approach. And then we've integrated these checks directly into our product, into CCH iFirm AML, which, as you would expect, is integrated into CCH Central. It was one of the biggest requests that we had from customers in terms of building out new product functionalities. People wanted an AML tool. I'm really proud of it. It is award-winning, and we have an award ceremony tonight for a nomination, so hopefully another trophy for the cabinet at the FinTech Awards. But yeah, and it's not something that's slowing down anytime soon. So we're constantly adding new features and new functionality based on customer requests as well. So having a quick look at the ICAW report, there are other governing bodies out there, but I've just picked the ICAW report. I always find it an interesting read. But I wanted to just pull out a few little bits and pieces that I got from that. So when it comes to client due diligence, it was found that the client verification is performed least effectively, 34.4% of firms not doing it to a standard that the ICAW would want to see under the MLR 17 laws. So that verification piece, so making sure that they are getting names, they're getting addresses, they're actually checking that the people who say they are Mr. Jones actually are Mr. Jones and not just taking their word for it. And when we looked at the, when ICAW rather looked at the non-compliant firms, the firms they deemed to be non-compliant with AML law, again, 27.4% of those had ineffective client identification procedures as well. 39 firms that were supervised by ICAW and visited as a part of this exercise were sanctioned in relation to AML weaknesses. Again, 90 odd grand in penalties there. Again, from smaller ones to larger ones, and exclusions as well. So obviously being barred from the ICAW. And 1 in 5 firms, so well, yeah, 20%, were reviewed by the ICAW and told that they had to have follow-up actions. Okay, what you're doing isn't good enough. You need to do X, Y, and Z to get you to a point where you're more compliant with the AML laws. From speaking to customers like yourselves, the big challenges that we found when speaking to them, and these are the ones that they shared with us, increased regulatory complexity. I mean, that's absolutely no surprise there, and accountants take AML out of it. Accountants are constantly pummeled with changes in regulation, changes in law, and it's up to you to keep up with them. But again, with AML, that regulatory complexity is not going away. It's only getting tightened, especially over the past few years. Manual processes, I think this is probably more specifically for our CCH customers before we released CCH iFirm AML. I think a lot of the work that they did to remain AML compliant was manual. A lot of it, if they were using software, was unintegrated. So yeah, it's a really manual process, and I'm hoping the next time we do one of these surveys, we don't necessarily see that, or we don't see as much of a pain point when firms start to use automated, integrated software. Evolving criminal tactics, bad actors with bad habits, we call them. But yeah, bad actors who will come in and find more and more sophisticated ways to try and launder money through your firm. And again, things like the rising use of AI is a very hot topic at the moment. But any other way in which a criminal can seek to launder money through the firm. And then obviously legal and reputational risks. Nobody wants to be on that report. Nobody wants to be named and shamed. Nobody wants to be giving slices of their revenue away in fines. And that's obviously a big worry for a lot of firms as well. So this is what I get asked about all the time. This is just a screen grab from a quote on Accounting Web on the Any Answers forum. And it's about how accountancy firms are passing on their AML costs. It's something that I get time and time again. I feel very strongly about it. I feel even more strongly after being charged £50, £60 for AML checks by a solicitor when we bought our house. But it is becoming the norm. So why should you be charging for AML? As I'm sure everyone on this call is aware, AML is not optional. Okay, this isn't something you're doing to use the phrase for the good of your health. It is a legal requirement. You're not getting anything necessarily from it other than protecting your business and fulfilling that law. So it must be done. It's become an industry standard, as I mentioned. Solicitors, if you want to rent somewhere, if you are buying a car, everybody will do these AML checks on you, but it is becoming industry standard that charge is then passed on to you. I'm seeing it more and more in the accountancy industry when I speak to more of our customers and non-customers, to be fair. We're seeing it more and more, which is great, but I don't think that it's done widely enough. But ultimately, it's not a cost that you should bear. And also, one of the points that I always hammer home about this is going to deter clients looking to misuse your service. If you're very much upfront and say, yeah, this will be your fee, this includes X, Y, and Z. One of those things is an anti-money laundering check, which we have to do by law to ensure that you are who you say you are. You've not got politically exposed elements, or you've been sanctioned, so on and so forth. Anyone who is actually looking to hopefully pull the wool over your eyes will be deterred by being pretty upfront. We have very stringent AML policies in place. A lot easier said than done. How do you charge for it? There are a couple of different methods. I've spoken to firms who use all of these methods. I've helped implement these methods as well into some practices. Disbursements. So your time and fee system, you can raise a disbursement against a disbursement code, add that onto the client's bill every time you do something AML related, whether that be a check, whether that be your time for risk assessments or anything like that. Some firms have an inflated first year fee that includes obviously various different elements. In a similar vein, some firms charge an onboarding fee. So that onboarding fee will basically cover for the cost of AML checks, letters of engagement, 64A, admin time, professional clearance, all those different elements that you have when you onboard a new client to the firm. And some firms will build that in as well. So they'll have a percentage rise, and they'll look at what the cost is on things like AML or other elements of client onboarding. They'll look at kind of what the profit margin needs to be on that. There'll be various other elements. Shouldn't have to explain this to accountants. And then they will build in that percentage wise in a year-on-year price increase. Another point very, very keen to touch on is the importance of the audit trail. Again, kind of bashing you around the head with some compliance here. I'm not going to read all of the bits and pieces from the law. I'm trying to make AML as exciting as I can. I don't want to put anyone to sleep. But yeah, really that audit trail is one of the most important elements of AML compliance. One of the phrases that I've heard put around quite a few times in relation to documenting what it is that you're doing. If you don't document it, you might as well have not done it. You know, if you can't find that document, find that action, have that necessary detail and show when it was done, who it was done by, then yeah, it's not worth doing. It is a part of the compliance element, so that audit trail again is all a part of AML compliance, keeping in with the law. The practices around good record keeping, so we always say that it must be 5 years, at least 5 years after the occasional transaction has been completed, or 5 years after the business relationship ends for AML documentation. And those records must be easily accessible as well. So looking at where you store those records, how they're filed, are they all bunged in a OneDrive somewhere? Are they on a local hard drive, which could be very, very problematic? Are you printing them off and putting them in a filing cabinet? Again, not the easiest way to retrieve those records and audit them as well. Pardon me. Again, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm not going to bash you over the head too much with compliance talk. I certainly won't be going and reading all of these out. These are just different elements that we've picked out from the NLR 17 laws and a document called Guidance for the Accountancy Sector by CCAB. If you've not read that, I highly do recommend it, specifically for accountants with AML. But essentially what this compliance is telling us, I'll try to summarize it into some bullets. You need to know your client is who they say they are. You need to understand who all your beneficial owners are, as well as, I'm not putting it on there, but the persons of significant control as well. There is a difference between the beneficial owner and the person of significant control. Again, hopefully everybody knows that. You need to collect, you need to authenticate IDs. And you need to be aware of PEPs, sanctions, adverse media, anything like that that will play a part in the risk factor that you assign to the client. This is not a comprehensive list of everything you must do. These are just some kind of key points that I've pulled out. But obviously, as I stated before, you also need to make sure that everything you do is documented. When do I need to do AML? It's one of the most kind of common questions that we get asked. Before entering a business relationship or undertaking any kind of transaction, any change in the business, any change in ownership, any change in control, any change in business finances. And then also, CCAB stated that for even the established business relationships, that should still be subject to ongoing client due diligence, even if there's not any massive change. Basically, this boils down to, from an AML perspective, it's a risk-based approach, right? It's always going to be a risk-based approach with AML. What you decide to interpret that is completely up to you. The majority of firms I speak to will do full AML checks on their client base once a year for those who are normal risk. Some firms do it every 2 years. And I've spoken to some firms who will do it kind of once every 3 years. They're for your normal risk clients. If you have low risk clients, I've spoken to firms who simply do not have the concept of a low risk clients, so they don't do simplified due diligence. They'd rather just have everyone on a level playing field, put everybody in as normal unless they're high. And then of course you have your high risk clients as well, which require enhanced due diligence. They may be doing AML checks on them twice a year, or however long is stated in your firm's policies and procedures documentation. Again, that idea of when you're doing those checks, when you've got to redo them, how often, the frequency, that is something that you have to come to as a conclusion in your own firm. But the important thing is that when you're doing those checks, they're documented, and actually any changes that come off the back of those checks, they are noted and the risk assessment is updated as well. No point doing those AML checks if you're not going to implement any changes to the risk assessment, indeed if there are changes from those checks. Again, MLR 17, relevant person must conduct ongoing monitoring of a business relationship. So scrutiny of transactions, but also making sure that everything they know is consistent with their knowledge of the customer's business and the risk profile as well. And also making sure that we are undertaking reviews of all of those existing records that we've got, and again, going back and updating that to make sure that the customer due diligence measures are up to date. This ongoing monitoring piece of really getting in there and understanding the customer, understanding the risk profile. Is there anything about them that you don't know that you should know? God forbid if you get audited and your governing body finds out something about them that you've not found and you've not documented. Yeah, that's going to be a problem for you. And we'll look about how we do ongoing monitoring very shortly. So what is CCH iFirm AML? Basically, your journey starts in CCH Central. So we're using all of your central data for this. So we eliminate the need for rekeying, making sure that any of the checks or any of the data that you're using for AML is the latest data available to you in CCH Central. That data is sent from CCH Central up into the cloud, CCH iFirm AML. We do a variety of searches. It completely depends on the check that you're doing based on what we do. There are a variety of checks, but we look at government databases, we look at leading credit bureaus, we look at PEPs and sanctions and adverse media databases. There's a lot of different things that go into that, again, dependent on the check. You get passes or fails, again, dependent on the check. Sometimes we're just returning information. There's not a pass or a fail there. It's for you to look at. And then any documentation that you get is synced to CCH document management. Again, one of our most popular features in this product, if you're using CCH document management, that automatic document sync to the document type and attached to that client record as well. The product's been a huge success for us. We've had a lot of take up with our customers. We're very, very proud of it. And again, it's that integrated solution to remove that AML burden from yourselves. So I'm going to take you through what some of our different checks actually look for. Pardon me. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because actually in 5 minutes I'm going to go into the product and demo it for you as well. But if you look at our data checks, so we do data checks for UK individuals, date of birth, name and address are checked, adverse media is checked, the PEPs and sanctions is checked, and we check mortality as well. We have a check for biometric KYC, which also includes some of the elements that you've seen in what we call our data check. So again, that name, address, date of birth is verified with government sources, and it's verified with credit sources as well. We pull data from the ID, so we use OCR to take the data from a driver's license, for example, and we can pull that information in. That information from that driver's license, my example, will then also sync to CCH document management too. And again, while we're doing that, we're checking PEPs, sanctions, special interest persons, relatives, close associates, adverse media, all of those elements as well. Client takes a selfie, so then we can match that selfie against the photo on the ID. Very advanced piece of tech. We look at around 30,000 different facial vectors. So from your AML compliance point of view, you can be sure that that person is who they say they are. We check to see where that submission is from. Are they using a VPN, which is a very common way in which bad actors will try and hide their location. And we make sure that ID is genuine. So we look for evidence of tampering. We look for any kind of changes, anything to do with the font, the spacing, the sizing, and we check those features as well, so like holograms that are on the document, any of those security features. And again, of course, with that, everything is synced to CCH Docs. iFirm ongoing monitoring, you only need first name, last name, and date of birth. You can bulk upload a bunch of clients from CCH Central into CCH iFirm AML. And once you're in CCH iFirm AML, you can use the interface there to bulk enroll them into ongoing monitoring. We'll see that very shortly. We have a PEP sanctions and adverse media database that's checked daily. And you will get anything that needs your attention, you'll get a flag for it. So that comes through as an email notification. You'll get an email saying you have X amount of matches, and you'll also get an in-app notification as well. And again, if you mark someone as a true positive, we make sure that that document goes into CCH Document Center. If you're not using CCH Document Center, by the way, don't worry, we do host these documents in the cloud for your retrieval as well. And then our most recent edition, which is being released today, is CCH iFirm KYB. So you can select your limited company or your LLP, and we can do this on UK businesses or international businesses as well. There are some countries that we don't support simply because the data is rubbish. It's not worth charging you for. But where we have good data or enough data that we think there's value, we can then pull those from international agencies as well. The business name and the CRN number will sync through if that CRN number is in CCH Central. If it's not in, you'll be asked to pick from a list of matches, which you'll see shortly. Company details, company officials, and shareholders, again, dependent on that location. And I'm sick of saying it, that then syncs to CCH document management for you as well. Before we jump into the product, customers are really loving CCH iFirm AML at the moment. Ease of running a check. We pulled our base, we've got a 6.6 out of 7 score. Still working on that last 0.4, we're going to get 7 out of 7. Time to run a check, on average, you look at 14 seconds out of CCH Central, which I'm absolutely thrilled with. 96% of firms found CCH AML more efficient than the current setup at the moment. Our roadmap was rated very highly. Roadmaps are influenced by customers, so if something needs to change, let us know and we can change it. And then 95% of our customers, which I was so happy with that number, after I'd spoken to them, said that they are going to try and charge for AML, generating new revenues using one of those methods that we spoke about before. So let's see CCH iFirm AML in action. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And if you bear with me, I'm just going to pull up CCH Central and I will reshare my screen. So the screen that I'm sharing from is on this other side of the wall, so I do apologize if I'm not looking directly at you. Okay, fantastic. And find this, share screen. Cool. So you should be able to see now CCH Central. Hopefully this is a familiar sight to you all, pardon me. And you'll be able to see that I am in my client record. So I've got my client record here, and you'll be able to see at the top we have a CCH iFirm AML button. So this is an individual. You can run checks on contacts or clients within CCH Central, and they can be draft contacts or draft clients as well. I know some firms don't like to move a draft to a full client until they've done AML or signed a letter of engagement. Again, no two firms work the same on this. So I click CCH iFirm AML, and it opens up in my browser. I'm on a development environment. So this is where when we're testing new features, we pop them in before they hit the public. And you can see for my individual, I'm prompted for 2 different kinds of checks. So I can do a AML data check. So my AML data check is taking my first name, middle name, last name out of CCH Central, gender, date of birth, my address, everything else. I also, at this point of running the data check, have the option, if I bought ongoing monitoring, to enroll that client into ongoing monitoring as well. So I can click that and they'll be enrolled into OM, as we abbreviate it. You can run your AML check, and we will go off to our data providers. We'll have a look at that data, we'll cross-reference it, and you'll get a pass or a fail. I think these will all be fails, because I'm just using some dummy data in this environment at the moment. And you'll get a report, and you can have a look at that report as well. Again, it's synced to CCH. You'll get a little key so you can see what you're actually looking at. But you can see we've got our data sources, so electoral register, national identity register, credit header, mortality. We do look at landline as a kind of last resort if we can't get matches elsewhere. It's not a particularly popular data source now, the landline dies out. PEP sanctions and adverse media, and mortality as well. We do 2+2 matching, which means we want to match you against 2 positive data sets, and we don't want you to appear on 2 negative data sets, which is industry standard to determine if you have a pass or a fail. Now, one of the other checks that we've got is our CCH iFirm biometric checks. So I'm just going to close my downloads window there. I'm going to go back into CCH Central, and I'm going to click CCH iFirm AML. Is this AML plus biometric KYC check. And the way this works is that your clients will get a text message. That text message will contain a link. They can click that link and it will open them up in a browser and it will take them through a process. So again, I click proceed. It pulls through my first name, my last name, and my mobile number. And again, I can add ongoing monitoring to this at this point if I want. All I need is my name and my date of birth in CCH Central. So I can send that text message. That text message will get sent out and your client will be taken on a journey. So what I'm going to do is show you that client journey. So this is one that I recorded. So I have a text message here. Now this text message has come from WK for Walters Kluwer, and it says Walters Kluwer in the body of the text as well. We can change that so that can come from your firm. What you really want in these processes for AML is a completion of this. We tend to find that we have very high completion rates on these because a number of reasons really. One is the fact that your clients aren't going, well, who are WK and why are they asking me for a photo of my ID? It's going to come from Cunliffe & Co, an accountancy firm that they're familiar with. And the second is that we use a URL. So there's no need to download an app. Again, once you have to go to the App Store, you've got to download an app. Again, they're wondering what this app is. They may never heard of it or the company that makes it. So with that URL, it just opens in your phone's browser, as you'll see shortly. So we partnered with a business called Apply ID for this. They are a leading provider of AML and ID technologies, not just in the UK, but globally. And we are accepting our terms and conditions here. So as you can imagine, there's some GDPR elements that we need sign off for because we're taking that data. We pop our address in, so we can pull down our address. I just put my postcode in there. And it's going to ask for my location, which is that VPN check that we talked about. And it's going to ask for a photograph of my ID. This is my ID, which as you can see is expired. It was a long time ago, that photograph. And what it's going to do now is it's going to do a number of things. So first and foremost, it's going to authenticate that ID. So it's going to look at the Format, it's going to look at the lettering, it's going to look at the spacing, it's going to look at the watermarks, it's going to look at holograms, anything that it needs to do to authenticate that it's a real ID, that it's not been tampered with. Looks over the layer at the top to make sure that the photograph is where it should be, and that's not been tampered with as well. And it's also using OCR technology to extract that data out. So you see I've got my ID number, which is my driving license number, my date of birth, my expiry date. It'll also get the country of issue of that document as well. And that data will be synced to CCH Central. You'll be able to go into Central then and run reports on kind of expired IDs. And we just make sure that that's right, that data is correct. And it's going to ask me to take a photograph. So it'll ask me to take a selfie. Technology here is very, very advanced. It's going to account for things like facial hair. It's going to take into account things like eyeglasses. It's going to take into account things like aging. And what you may or may not have seen there, it also asks me to smile. And it's super important, that smile. The whole reason that it's asking for that is to prove that I'm a real person. I think if you've set up like a bank before, you know, like one of the challenger banks, for example, sometimes they make you say a certain phrase or read out numbers. Again, this is our way of making sure that that is a real person, and it's not a photo of a photo. You'll notice as well, this is Wolters Kluwer branded. If this is something that you're interested in, you decide to take this, depending on which level you come at, we can remove the Wolters Kluwer branding and we put your branding on there as well. So it's, again, your logo and your colour schemes. So once that's been done, you'll be able to view the report. Again, you'll get a notification. Once that's been done, you'll get an email that will say, Ben Cunliffe passed his check, or Ben Cunliffe failed his check. This is the bits that were passed, this is the bit that was a fail. So, and again, we've blurred out some of the detail on here because it's just a demo check. But you can see we get tampering checks, so you'll get a risk to see if the document has been tampered with. Again, if it's been photocopied, if it's been photoshopped, if it's been taken a photo of a computer. One of our support cases that we had to help one of our customers with, the client had sent a scan of their passport for whatever reason, and they had it in their outbox. So they took a photo of that on the computer. Again, big no-no. Anything that's not the real document in front of you will come through as a fail. That verification of name, address, and date of birth, again, PEP sanctions and adverse media, that's all through in here. And as well, the location side of it as well, are they using a VPN? The facial scan, so what is the familiarity between the two photographs? Can we match them up? We do that by putting this indicative breakdown, so it's kind of like a grid. Again, those 30,000 different data points we take into consideration, and you'll get a pass or fail on some of these. And also your liveness check as well. So do we believe that there was a real person at the other end of this doing this check? Were we able to see that? Again, all this documentation goes through and it syncs into CCH Central, so that comes into CCH Central, and the information on the document used will also sync into Central as well for you. We have a lot of firms who use this at the point of client onboarding, so it's really a part of their client onboarding workflow. We also have it for firms who have high-risk clients or when a client's ID expires. But we tend to find that most firms will take a mix of the data checks and the biometric checks as well. So coming out of that, I want to just jump into the overview screen in CCH iFirm AML. So the overview screen is designed to give you the latest AML status of whichever client that you're looking at. So for example, if I go into, well, I'll show you the AML check log, because the AML check log is every AML check you've done. So you could have done 50 checks on one person in theory. and you will see all of those 50 checks listed out there for you. Again, when we look at the overview screen, it is just that latest information that we've got. So you can see you've got your client code, first name, last name. If you've got ongoing monitoring, are they enrolled into ongoing monitoring or not? What the last AML check status was it a pass or a fail, etc. What the check type done was, so was it the biometrics and AML, or was it just the AML data checks? When was that status updated, and when was their ongoing monitoring status updated? And we can start to filter these as well. So for example, if I just wanted to see all of my clients who are inactive on ongoing monitoring, we can see these clients here. If I scroll down, we can also see a bunch of clients that I've bulk uploaded from CCH Central to CCH iFirm AML, and I've never done anything with them. So I've never run an AML check on them. I've never enrolled them into ongoing monitoring. One of the things that I'm able to do is use the bulk functionality. So we've built out this bulk functionality, and it allows us to then bulk activate ongoing monitoring. So we can enroll 50 of our clients at once. We are actually still building out this bulk functionality. So the bulk enrolling for ongoing monitoring is there today. The next piece we're releasing in the coming weeks and months is the ability to then bulk send biometric checks to clients. And then we're also going to do bulk data checks as well. So just trying to make it as easy for you as we possibly can. If we go into ongoing monitoring itself, we can actually get into the nitty-gritty. So again, we can see which clients are enrolled and which are not enrolled, and we can see where we have matches. So when we enroll a client in ongoing monitoring, it's important because you don't want to essentially be running checks every single day on a customer. Like I said, some firms will do one check once a year, they'll do one check once every 3 years. It's really important to know what your client is getting up to, or is there anything you need to be aware of after that initial check. It's always the question that I ask customers, or our customers, is what happens on day 2? If you're doing them every 3 years, what happens on day 2 to day 995 or whatever 3 years is in days. And it's really important to know that you have that visibility and you can document it as well. So if we go into, I've got Keir Starmer here. If you get a match, it'll come through to you as a potential match. So it will say to you, hey, we think we found something. We may be right, we may be wrong. Have a look and let us know. And you can go in and you can mark the matches that we've found as a true positive, which is, yeah, you have found my client, this is them, or a false positive. Thanks very much, but actually that's not my client. So if it's a true positive, again, that document syncs to CCH Central. If it's false positive, we keep the record in the cloud for you. If you need to see it, if you need to go and change your mind and say, actually, no, I was wrong. But what we do is we don't necessarily sync those false ones because it's false, it's not your client. So we've got Keir Starmer, always a great example for PEPs and sanctions is to run a former Prime Minister, our current Prime Minister. I've got Boris Johnson and all sorts in here. And you'll see that we've got 2 results for Keir Starmer, which is interesting. We have a Keir Rodney Starmer, we have a birth date, and we've got Paul Bint. So you may be asking, why do we have Paul Bint? How is that related to Keir Starmer? So we can go in and we can have a look. So, and without reading you through the whole 10 pages of this PDF, we can see that this gentleman used Keir Starmer as an alias, and in 2009 he impersonated Keir Starmer, and we pull all of the records, all of the sources. So you've got the hyperlinks so you can see them, things like BBC News, any local kind of newspapers, fraud analytics databases, fraud web, so on and so forth. So this gentleman had essentially said, I'm Keir Starmer, in an attempt to defraud people. You'll also notice here that we've got REL and RRE. So if we have a look at our report key, we can actually see what those mean. So REL is regulatory enforcement list, so an individual who's been subject to investigation, financial or regulatory body, or law enforcement. And RRE, which is reputational risk exposure, Our data provider for this is the same as Adverse Media, by the way. But yeah, something around a media source, an official media source that could bring you into disrepute. So that's a reputational risk exposure for yourself. So one of the points that we added into this as well is the ability to add comments. So again, really, really big on that audit trail. It's all well and good saying that, yeah, you have found our customer, mark them as a true positive, but what are you going to do about it? So, you know, in this instance, you might want to say, if this was our customer, identified our customer risk has been upgraded, they are now a high-risk client, and because they're a high-risk client, we will now, as set out in our policies and procedures, do X, Y, and Z. Could be more frequent AML checks, you could choose not to work with this client anymore, you could go fact-finding, there are a number of different things you could do. But we can also look at our other element as well. So we've got Keir Starmer in here, and we think, okay, yeah, this is our customer. And again, for Keir Starmer, we've got PEP, should be a surprise to nobody, a politically exposed person, and we have sanctions lists as well. Tier 1 PEP, and again, all of the links that we found for that particular individual to prove what we found. And again, anything on the report key will be linked through here as well. One of the pieces of work that we're doing is to actually widen ongoing monitoring. So we are also going to allow for ongoing monitoring for businesses. So if you have any kind of particular business that you want to check for a sanction as well, then be able to enroll those businesses. Most common use case we found was on individuals, but want to make sure that we can give you the best tools for the job. So yeah, that will be released very soon. So I'm really proud of ongoing monitoring. It is, I believe, happy to be corrected, unique to us in the sense that we are the only kind of full suite accountancy software that will also provide daily PEPs and sanctions monitoring. Previously, you would have to go to a specialist provider, specialist AML provider for PEPs and sanctions monitoring on a daily basis. Yeah, so it's not something that our competitors in that tax and accounting suite landscape have, so really proud of it. One other element I'd like to show you are our KYB checks. So KYB is being released today, which I'm really excited about. And again, it's the ability to go in and pull down company information, make sure that you understand who the directors are, make sure you understand who the secretaries are, make sure you understand who that ultimate beneficial owner is, or that person of significant control. Again, not always the same person, but in most cases they can be. And ultimately that's to make sure that you're doing your client due diligence and you're doing your individual checks on the right people. So you can see here, I'm in a business and they're a limited company, and I can click CCH iFirm AML. It's going to open it up in a tab for me. Now again, we're just hitting some a dummy API in here, but I've got my CRM that's come through. So if you don't have a CRM and you're just searching on name, you'll get a secondary screen, and that will ask you to confirm the business that you're looking for. If you've already got that CRM, it's unique to that business. You don't need to see that screen. So we just search based on that CRM. Obviously, you might not always have that though. So you can run that KYB check. We will go off with our data providers, our data partners, and we will pull down the record for that check. And if I have a look, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, zoom out a little bit, you'll see that we get the information. So this is a UK one, and the registration authority is Companies House. We get the company name, number, status, the legal form, the foundation date. We get the address. We get the capital, the shareholdings, activities. So this is a dormant company at this point. We have our representatives, so our director, our company secretary, and then we have the shareholdings as well. And this means that you don't have to basically go and sift through all that information through various different sources or through Companies House, or we can basically give it to you all in one piece, and then it will allow you to sync that into CCH Central, or CCH Document Management. I think one of the last pieces that I'd like to show you is actually just this element that we have, that integration piece. So again, I've got my driving license information is synced into here as well. I also have my AML tab. So my AML tab means that I don't necessarily, if I want to just have a quick look or do some quick reporting, doesn't mean that I have to go into the product each time. You can see that I've got my submitted date for the AML check, I've got my check type, I've got my status, whether it's pass or fail, I've got the employee who ran that check, and again, if you've got CCH Document Management, it'll also link off to CCH Document Management with that PDF. We've got the same for ongoing monitoring as well, so is my client enrolled in ongoing monitoring, yes or no? That will also bring through the date they were enrolled and the status of that as well. So again, is there a match status, when was it updated, and is there an associated document? Again, if I just show you the document center itself. Oh, my coffee's gone cold now, that's the worst. You'll see that the documents have come through. Again, this is just AML reports because this is all I run on this client, but it would sit alongside all of your other documents as well. So hopefully that was a pretty thorough overview of CCH iFirm AML. I think we just have a few more slides, and I've got some questions I need answering that were sent in, and also any questions that are in the chat. So I'm just going to reshare my slide deck. So our pricing and packaging, as I mentioned before, it completely depends on what you want. International KYB checks, UK KYB checks, data checks, checks on AML plus biometric KYC and ongoing monitoring are all at different prices. They all do different things, and the data that we have to buy, and that is live data, by the way. We don't have access to a stack of data that's a year old, and we check that. It's live data. And they all come with different prices because that data is at different prices as well. So really, if you want a quote for the product, I would get in touch with your account managers, and I would ask them, I'll let them know, this is what we want, this is how many of it we want, what does the pricing look like for that? Cool, we've got a few minutes left. I have some questions on my phone that have been sent in. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm just going to run through a few questions, and I will also check the chat and see what we have in the Q&A. One of the questions has been sent in: is there an expiry window once an AML check is sent to the client to complete? If so, can this be altered? So there is an expiry window. The checks that get sent will expire after 7 days. You can't change that at the moment. Again, if that's a feature that you'd like, it's something that we can look into. But checks that are not actioned by the client will expire in 7 days. You do have the option in CCH iFirm AML to resend the SMS as well. So you can resend that message to them. If an AML check needs resending, is there an additional charge for this? No. So if you send out a biometric check to your clients and they don't do anything with it, there is no charge to you. That doesn't count as a charge. It will, not something that we charge for. The reason we don't charge for it in that instance is we've not accessed any data because they've not done the check. So we have no kind of cost to recoup on that. Are there additional charges for ongoing monitoring? Yes, ongoing monitoring is an additional charge. It doesn't come part and parcel if you want to buy ongoing monitoring. It is phenomenally cheap. I think at its most expensive, and that's if you're only putting a few clients into ongoing monitoring, it comes out at £2 per client per year. But obviously the more that you buy on ongoing monitoring, the cheaper it can become. We have different bandings. So yeah, there is an additional cost for that. Is there a way to filter ongoing monitoring to cut admin work down? I.e., can it be set to only exact matches on name and date of birth to avoid mass notifications on those with similar details? Yeah, so what we have at the moment, we have a matching logic with a score, and there's a scoring algorithm for it, for a score of 90. That was recommended to us. We did some research, and 90 seems to be a good space. Anything below, and you could get a bit more rubbish through. Anything higher, and obviously you have to remember that people or some people may be trying to hide their identity from you, so they may have false details, but anything higher, and it might actually filter some of those out. I believe what we can do for you is with our data provider, is change that. But as a rule of thumb, we have it on 90. But I'm quite certain that on a kind of firm by firm basis, if that needs changing, it's something we can look into for you. Is there an option to white label the branding? If so, is there an extra cost for this? No, so the branding is free, but we don't offer the branding on the very lowest tier of the biometric checks, just because we have quite a lot of clients who are using the product, and that very lower tier, to brand that, it is a lot of effort on our side, does take a lot of time, but we will brand it free of charge if you're on one of our other tiers. I think the minimum tier that we offer branding on is 250 AML plus biometric KYC checks a year. When an AML is completed, how do we get notified? Well, you get email notifications for AML plus biometric KYC completed checks. You get them for expired checks, and you will get them for ongoing monitoring matches. We don't send email notifications for data checks because it's instantaneous, and we don't send notifications for KYB either, again, for that same reason. Is there a function to annotate the AML reports? We don't have the function to annotate the AML reports. We do, as you saw in ongoing monitoring, have the option to add the comments, so you can add your own commentary to that. Can you override the outcome of a report? No, at this point we don't allow the overriding of a report. From our perspective, it's pass or fail based on what we measure for. That is not to say that you can or you cannot act on behalf of the client. That is completely up to you. Is there an option to AML check overseas residents? It depends what you mean when you say AML check. So the AML check, as you've seen, is a number of different things. So with the biometric ones, they will work with foreign documents, so foreign passports or foreign IDs, driving licenses. That's fine. We can read those and we can authenticate those and make sure that they are right. What we won't do as a part of those checks is the name, address, and date of birth validation, simply because not all countries have that data readily available. Some countries, as you can imagine, have very, very poor publicly buyable, accessible data. And what we found is that essentially it would come back as unable to match them. So yes, we can do it from an ID point of view. PEPs and sanctions itself as part of an AML check is global. Document ID verification is global. The verification of name, address, and date of birth is not. And what I would do in that instance, and it's not for me to tell you guys how you should proceed with AML, I can only offer you ideas, but I would simply get a proof of address, a secondary proof of address document from any customer, regardless if we couldn't verify their name, address, and date of birth, regardless of where they're from in the world. I would simply ask for another proof of ID document. Is there an option to run a check using documents only rather than biometrics? No, we don't have that as an option at the moment. They're the questions that came through. I'm going to have a look at the Q&A. So what if you don't have CCH document management? Yeah, if you don't have CCH document management, you can view the reports. It's a really simple one to do. You can view them in the cloud and you can download them. Can it verify overseas documents if the client does live in the UK? Yeah, 100%. If you've got a UK address, but you've got a French driving license or an Italian passport, yeah, that will work. As long as we can find you in that. Does the ID check KYC work for non-UK based individuals, e.g. non-UK passports, non-UK addresses? So yeah, as we covered, non-UK passports should be fine. Non-UK addresses, no, because we can't always validate that data. Countries have different data standards. Is the CCH ID check compliant with Companies House, the authorised corporate service provider ID checks? Yeah, we spoke to Companies House about this. It's frustrating because they are not rubber stamping anything. So how you have HMRC, for example, rubber stamping MTD software, Companies House aren't doing that. So we spoke to Companies House about this. We looked at the Companies House standard. We're confident that we do meet those standards. Companies House, when we spoke to them, said, if you can verify that the individual is who they say they are, they can be matched against that ID, then that is sufficient. So yeah, we're happy that we can match those standards. To be honest, I always prompt people on the authorised corporate service provider piece to go down the driver's license area as well when they're doing that, simply because that driver's license also contains the address on that document, printed onto that document as well. But it's impossible to get our legal department will shout at me for saying impossible. It's virtually impossible to get a fake document through that system. It is foolproof. And previously, actually, interestingly enough, one of the things that the company that we work with, Apply ID, did, they set up a competition. If you could fool it, if you could get something through it in any way, shape, or form that wasn't genuine, you won $100,000. And of course, nobody claimed that bounty. What document types will it accept? We accept driver's license, passports. They're our most commonly used ones. I do believe there are different forms of ID cards as well. I assume the ID would be fully visible to us. That is just blurred as a demo. Correct. The ID would be fully visible to you, as would the selfie. When we stop acting for the client, is it still listed on iFirm AML list? Yes, still listed on iFirm's AML list because you need that audit trail. Is the list of client polling client I have made search on, or is it listing all clients from other users as well? It's all the clients that are in CCH iFirm AML, but you should have that contact security in place as well. So yeah, I'll double check that, but you shouldn't, if you can't see a client in CCH, you shouldn't be able to see them in iFirm. If I do bulk monitoring search, how to quickly pick client who do we not act for, on hold, or for different partner. We are introducing partner filtering, which I'm really looking forward to. So that's going to be one of the options, so you can filter by partners. Conscious on time. Can we delete from the document center? You can delete from the document center. You can't delete out of CCH iFirm AML itself. We don't want to allow deletion. That audit trail is so important, even if it's old data or anything like that. If it's there, you can show that compliance. What happens if the client has a problem doing the ID check? Steph, have I got time for 2 or 3 more questions? Is that okay?
Yeah, if you've got time, Ben, we can carry on for a little bit longer.
Okay, thank you. What happens if the client has problems doing the ID check? Who supports them, us or WK? That's up to you. You can support them. There is a phone number on the text message they get. That phone number is routed to our data providers who we work with on these, which is Apply ID, and they can handle that query for you. They know that we work very closely together. Do you also have to have document management as an add-on, or we could just want to use iFirm? Don't have to have document management at all. The majority of our clients do, so we built that integration. As I said, all those documents are stored in the cloud. Okay, if you're onboarding a new limited company but are not acting for one of the shareholders personally, do you need to create a CCH code and record for that individual to run the ID checks? Yes, that client does have to be in CCH to run an ID check on an individual. How you want to do it is up to you. You may wish to put them in as a contact as opposed to a client, but yeah, it's something that can be done. Can you renegotiate pricing mid-year, like take 500 and then say, okay, this is go ahead solution, I got 5,000? No, you can't. So the contracts are annual contracts. So let's say that you take 50 and you say this is brilliant. When you get to the end of your contract, you can negotiate up and say, okay, now we'll take 5,000. If you take 50 checks and or 250 or 500 or whatever, say you take 500 and you get to check 501, we don't lock you out. You don't have to call up and say, I want another 500. You just get charged that per check price. So we've made it super easy. It's called just an overage fee. It's the same as your per check price. So you're not calling anybody up saying I've run out of credits or anything like that. And there's not an extortionate fee because you've gone over. It's not, say, £1 a check for my mental arithmetic, but it's not, £1 a check for your first 500 and then you've gone out of contract and then we suddenly charge you £50 for it. It's just the same going onwards, and that reduces the friction. There's enough friction with AML as a process. We don't want to add to it. How do you download reports? You don't have CCH document management. Yeah, you can view them in the cloud and you can download them from straight from there, and it will download locally to your machine. My employer currently uses CCH, but it's not cloud-based. Would we have to transfer to the cloud? No, not at all. Not at all. It's not a problem. You just need an internet connection. You don't have to transfer to like a hosted element for CCH. Can you do checks without entering people into Central at all? No, Central remains your single source of truth. We want to keep it that way. So you do have to have that information in CCH Central. What happens if the client doesn't have a passport or driver's license? Are there other documents to be submitted? That's really up to you. If you need a requirement for an ID, if they've not got a passport or a driver's license, you could look at other elements like national ID cards or things like that. I don't believe our system will handle them. I'm happy to be corrected, but 80% of the documents that get put through, roughly 80% are driver's licenses. The rest are passports. Just going through these to make sure I think I've answered some of these already. Is there a level of checking that most of your accounting firms use? I'm not 100% sure. Most will use the biometric checks for new clients. They will use data checks for kind of once a year to make sure name, address, and date of birth is still valid. And they will then enroll them into ongoing monitoring for everything in between. It's completely up to you how you do that. Are there plans to extend KYB functionality? Yes, so when we did the KYB development, we asked what was kind of the most important element, and it was those directors, those shareholders. Very few people wanted credit reports, but that is something that we can look to add. Are your fees complete? There is no need for an additional fee for the provider. I mean, our fees are what they are. I don't think we have any hidden fees. We're very upfront about our pricing. Hopefully you know that if you're a CCH customer already. Which features are live, which features are coming? Everything you've seen today is live, or everything you've seen today will be live by the end of the day. The only element that's not is the bulk sending of the biometric checks. That's coming very, very shortly. But the bulk enrollment is of ongoing monitoring is still there. Can you restrict the use of the program on CCH to limited users? Yes, you can. If you close the client on Central, will it switch off the searching? No, it won't. You'd have to unenroll your client into ongoing monitoring for that. Any plans to build in a client risk assessment questionnaire? Yes, there is. It's a short answer. I think everything else we've answered. Okay, thank you very much for your time, everybody. Sorry we have gone over time, but I appreciate everyone's engagement. If you've got any questions, please do reach out to your account manager, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.